I think the theme for me this year was like you have to have like understanding there are different versions of success. Like I didn't make as much money this year, but I made a heck of a lot more connections and relationships and friendships in the business.
Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Isan.
And I'm Eric Mertz.
And this is episode 174 of the podcast. It's December 20th, 2024, as we record this. And today we are doing our year end review. Lots of stuff to talk about there. We want to thank all of our existing patrons for believing in our work here offline and on the podcast. And you can become a patron of the arts and follow us on patreon.com/Valerie Isan, IHSAN, and patreon.com/Strange Air Stories for short stories in the paranormal mystery genre. Announcements, author updates. I got my office cleaned. I think I
Yay.
mentioned that last week, but
You might have.
yeah, mostly I have been it is so crazy at the bookstore. It's kind of like so one day this week it was so busy and I was so like it reminded me of working at the bookstore during the pandemic lockdown. It's so busy, it's so nonstop. I'm behind the counter for like 9 hours in the pandemic, and it's just go, 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 go. And you can't even like relax during your lunch hour because you're so worried that other people are slammed too. And I would come home from work and my husband would be like, "What's wrong with you?" I would just
Right.
be shell shocked almost, like just kind of staring at the wall with my mouth hanging open. Like I couldn't function at all. And that's how it was. Like one of the days this past week, I just came home and all I did was watch TV for like 3 hours when I got
I
home
love
because I
it.
could not do anything else. It was like a weird PTSD flashback thing from the pandemic. But yeah, so mostly I've just been working at the bookstore and trying to like be sane. My son is in this like temp job kind of thing. So I've been picking, and he's working in a weird place that he's not going to be working at normally. You know what I mean?
Right.
Before he gets his permanent placement, and it's also a weird timing where like the buses don't run that early or something weird. So I had volunteered 2 days a week to like transport him back and forth. So I've been doing a little bit of that too.
So are you saying I'm not going to be done transporting kids around for a while? Is that
Not
a fact of my life that you're trying to tell me? Because I am officially,
necessarily. I mean, when I was a kid, like my generation, what are we?
oh,
We're
here we
Gen
go. Here we
X's.
go.
Gen X's were
Here we
like,
go.
when am I going to get my driver's license? You know, I was
Oh, my
like
kid does not want a driver's
15.
license.
My kids don't drive. They don't
He's
know how
like,
to
I got
drive.
you,
They have
Dad.
no
Yeah.
desire to learn.
He's like,
I'm
I've got
like,
you.
yeah. But when they're in their 20s, you're like, here's money for the bus pass, dude.
Oh,
I'll buy you an Uber card for Christmas. I'm not going to be
I will
driving you anywhere.
I will say that like I do not love driving. I don't I like the act of driving. I just don't like having to do I don't like I don't like driving. It's kind of a contradictory thing. I know. Like I like sitting behind the wheel. I like the music on. I like seeing things outside the window. But like when I have to like Thursdays, I drive across town and it's like I love to hate Thursdays because
Hmm.
just being in the car and like driving
I
up
like
and down the
driving.
freeway in traffic, it's like, oh, come on,
Sometimes I
man.
just don't feel like I have the time for it, and I wish I could like beam me up somewhere, but for the most part, I'm the main driver in the
You
in the
just sh
house. Whenever Ali and I go somewhere, I'm always driving. I prefer it
Oh
that
yeah.
way. Also last week, Ali had emergency oral surgery. He had a broken tooth that had gotten
God, that happened
infected,
in my
so
house too.
so much pain, and so he was on antibiotics, and then that pain sort of resolved, and then he went to the dentist, and I thought he was just going to get the tooth pulled, but they did like a whole bone graft and everything. Like, whoa, it was oral surgery. So he's been like 2 days ago, he started feeling a little bit better. So there was like post-op care thrown in all there too. And yeah, it's been kind of strange here at our house. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
I've been doing. That's my weekly update, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing, oddly, we've had some dental work, some surprise dental work in the last 3 months, um, which is just like your favorite thing to do with money. It's like, oh, so much fun to spend it on broken teeth. Um, but I digress. Just writing a lot when I can. It's been I've had a little hectic family time the last week, so it's been hard to focus. Client work has been quiet. People seem to like, everybody wanted me to be real busy until about the 10th of December. And then I think everybody just kind of rolled into the same cocoon that you did when they just got home and, turned on the TV for 3 hours. I think I'm seeing a lot of that from people that I work with. So, and that's fine. I think it's just naturally that part of the year.
Mhm.
People just kind of like, ambition takes a pause, and that's okay.
What are you reading?
I had to actually like look it up because I can like the subtitle is so great. The book is called Hampton Heights, by Dan Kois. I think it's Kois, Kois, Dan Kois. The subtitle is One Harrowing Night in the Most Haunted Neighborhood in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it's a really interesting, it's like lit horror. Um,
Cool.
and I usually roll my eyes. I read Locust magazine and I read the reviews. I read the reviews very closely. And the reviewer really said for lit horror, even if you don't like the genre, you'll like this. And it's really interesting. It's really smart. It's really fun. It really makes me realize that a lot of horror, the way we've been fed horror, is that the characters are secondary, right? They're just like cute kids running away from, cute kids at camp running away from monster. And now they're characters with real depth and they actually stand for something. And
Hmm.
it's a really nice, it's refreshing. This is a highlight. It's not going to be my favorite book of the year, but it's certainly maybe the most surprising. Like to feel like lit draw in a horror story. So
Hmm.
read it if you like lit,
All right.
if you like scary things, and if you like jokes about the upper Midwest. I'll also say that. If you appreciate a good Wisconsin, Minnesota joke, this book's for you. It's all over. The guy clearly loves to just riff on like, Minnesota nice and the weird, Milwaukee weirdness. It's pretty good. Pretty
Minnesota
good for
nice.
that
Did
too.
you watch the last season of Fargo?
Which one are we talking? Which is the last one? Because I thought the last one was that Chris Rock?
No, the one after that.
I have not seen that one.
It's it,
Chris,
it it's a whole episode on Minnesota nice, or a whole season on Minnesota nice, and like, yeah, it was pretty cool. I really liked it actually.
all right, dig it, dig it.
Okay, I
Unexpected
am reading
recommendation.
Start Thinking Rich. I'm on this
Oh,
like
there's a theme
financial
here.
literacy kick right now, so trying to, yeah, head off 2025. So yeah, I heard about it on in the interwebs, some other groups that I'm in, and it says Start Thinking Rich, 21 Harsh Truths to Take You from Broke to Financial Freedom, Dr. Brad Klontz and Adrian Brambila. And it's just a bunch of, it's like, it is hard truths. It's like they tell it like it is. There's no sugarcoating. It's more like, dude, you're doing this wrong. Here's what you're doing wrong. And here's why it's really important that you don't do it this way. So it's not like condescending at all, which I have read some finance books. There's some authors out there, well-known ones, that have kind of a smirky attitude about people and
Right,
and how they've made mistakes financially, and this is totally not that way, so I'm liking that. And I'm also reading The Desire Map, another nonfiction book by Danielle LaPorte, and that is about goal setting, but using your feelings and your soul to make those decisions. Um, yeah, based on core value feelings rather than like what accomplishments you want to fulfill. So that's what I'm reading.
You in alignment. It's all about you. You're all about alignment, you. That's kind of
Yeah, that was my
yeah.
my phrase, aligned action for 2024. I haven't figured out the 2025 one yet. More on that later. Resource tidbits, tips.
Ooh.
I am still really loving Magic Mind. It's crazy awesome, Eric. I don't know. Like, I think you should find it, try it somehow. It's pretty amazing. I'm buying my subscription today. I decided to like full on subscribe to the monthly thing. Um, what I've been doing more, in case you forgot from last week, it's a mental performance shot that I
Right.
take with my coffee. And I really like the all the work they did behind it, like the company, they donate 5 cents of every bottle to sold to mental health charities in that help the U.S. homeless communities. So I think that's really awesome. They're 100% carbon neutral, and that's important to me. All their mushrooms that go in the shot are organically grown in California. They just use really high grade stuff and yeah, they worked on it for over 10 years to make it, and they've got all these scientific studies behind every ingredient. I just really like the company. And
Right. Right.
yeah, so I still think it's super awesome. So if you do want to get the subscription, or if listeners, you can get that 48% off your first subscription or 20% off the one-time purchases with the code Valerie20 at checkout. You can claim it at magicmind.com/Valerie20. So that's my
Hmm.
resource tip. Do you have one?
I don't know how I was thinking about this, like how to articulate it. So I've been like, there's a lot of really great organizations, groups, out there that are just, and I feel like they're hidden. Here's what I'm getting at. I um connected to Wordcrafters in Eugene, as are you.
Hmm.
And Sally Vandergriff, who's works for Wordcrafters, was on a podcast, and she put it out to her mailing list. And here's what I did that I don't normally do. I clicked on the thing and I actually read the entire email, and then I clicked on the podcast, and then I listened to the podcast. Now, I realize that there's only 24 hours of it in a day, and you have to spend, some of it sleeping and some of it driving your adult and,
Figuring out what to make for
adolescent children
dinner.
around. You got to make dinner, walk dogs. But I listened to this podcast, and it was put on by the Astoria Writers Guild. And so I thought, I had no idea that there was an Astoria Authors Guild, Writers Guild. So I clicked on their link, and they are an amazing organization. Not, like, if you, I don't know what tier, I don't know if we have tiers of organizations, but they do retreats. They do like kind of like Wordcrafters does Ghost Story Weekend. They do like a hosted retreat weekend. They have all sorts of seminars. They have live radio that they do in Astoria. And it just occurs to me that one of the things that we lose sight of is that we've probably all signed up for 10,000 email lists and subscriptions, and we're supporting people by clicking the subscribe button. But maybe, like, this is not a pitch for my mailing list. This is just a pitch for all mailing lists. Like, read the newsletters once in a while, see
Hmm.
what people are doing. I would have never known this group was out there. Now they're on my top of the year, 2025 list to, like, hey, I'd love to come out there and attend something, teach something, be part of your
Hmm.
group. So
Yeah.
I think the tip is, like, maybe spend some time in 2025 sort of looking at what you're subscribing to, weed out some of the noise so you're really just getting content you want, and look at it and just see what
Hmm.
other writers are doing. Because again, I'm not competing with Sally Vandergriff. I want to be in the world, we want to be in the same world together. So,
Hmm.
you know, listen, listen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See what others are doing.
Yeah, see what others are doing, and just remember, keeping in mind, this is going to be we're going to talk about 2025 here in a second, I know, but like, we're a community here, people. We're trying to be. Let's just be a community instead of you know, competing with each other.
All right, well, let's get into our review.
Gosh, 2024,
2024.
stupid
Yeah.
even
Well,
years.
my fast track here, my 2 minute review
Do
of
it.
2024. Let's see, it's 10:35 a.m. right now. Oh, it just 10:36. Okay, so at
Oh, you're
10:38.
no, we're not doing that that way.
All right. Um, I just know that I can get kind of wordy sometimes.
Oh, join the club.
It was kind of a shit show for me. I'll
Uh-oh,
just
better
have
put
to
this
say.
adult language on this
I
episode.
know. Sorry.
All
Yeah.
right.
Um, as you know, we did a lot of episodes in Turkey. We did a lot of episodes about crisis and how to keep
Yeah.
writing through like a bunch of unknown stuff, how to get back on track. Like there was a lot of that. So I had a lot of loss at the beginning of the year. I suffered some emotional burnout towards the middle of the year, kind of like May through July. I was just sort of like, what is going on? And had to really reel back and stop for a little bit and just do the bare minimum. And yeah, that's kind of been, I haven't looked through my planner. This is my 2024 planner. It's chock-a-block full of stuff. So I did do a lot of traveling. That was fun in that I like to go to new places and experience new things. The reasons why I was traveling was not fun, but I did get to
Right.
see friends that I don't see very often and family. So that was good. I had a great retreat. I taught at conferences. I went to Alaska for the first time. Um, so I did a lot of cool things in my business world that I was really proud of. Um, Pretty much, I didn't do anything on my list though. And I had some feelings about that, but I think, well, we'll get to that in the next segment. So I'll stop there. That was my year in review.
It's funny when you said all that. I was like, I remember all that. I can definitely I
Yeah,
can.
it's still right there.
It's still, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And here's,
And
I'm
my
just going to
dog
caveat.
died.
Oh gosh, my cat ran away. We've had a mirror year. Mirror year. Um, I'm just going to say this. I always get weirded out by like year in review things that happen 11 days before the end of the year.
I know.
There's a
Like, are
small
we testing fate? Oh
there's a small percentage of the year
what's
left.
gonna
Like
happen?
I could go win the lottery tomorrow, and my year in review just changed
Well,
very
we could do a
dramatically.
part two then, an extended
Yeah,
version if that
right.
happens.
Yeah, suddenly everything changed, guys. You know, for me, I think that, in a business sense, I did for the first time ever, I went into January with like, I'm gonna sort of build this sort of like money projection for the year, and here's what I'm earning from these jobs, and I did this, like, tried to do this financial projection and how things were going to work, and then I promptly lost the baseline job that was going to sort of anchor everything. And you were part of that too. You were part of the Harp and Sword. um
Mhm.
well, you were briefly there. You were there enough to
I
like,
went to a
you got
meeting.
you went to a
I
meeting,
signed the
and
contract. That was all.
you signed the contract, went to a meeting, and then whiff, it went away. Well, I had worked for them for a year, and it was like, and I've reflected on this with a friend. Like, it was a gravy train, and my whole year was based on that. And then it wasn't. So the whole year really took an interesting turn, because I had to ask the question in April, am I a fool for trying to plan a year?
Hmm.
Or is this just what happens in life? And I
Hmm.
think it's a little bit of both. Um, I will go into 2025 planning. Oh, wait, it's the next
That's
segment.
the next
But
segment.
I also had this reflection on, like, this is just the business rolls, and creatively, I don't think I've ever created more stuff. I don't think I've ever written more than I have, especially since April or in May. Um, I don't know what to attribute that to. I mean, I think there's a certain clarity. So now I face 20, I face like the idea of like, I really have to get better at putting this stuff out there in the world because I have dozens and dozens of things to put out there. Um, and then just business wise, it was a rough year. My website did not start performing. It had a I was I It's almost been dormant since the middle of or the end of 2023. So it took almost a year to kind of reconfigure it. So the year's been a lot about like configuring, reconfiguring, and while also just like the creative train hasn't stopped. And it's always such an odd feeling to feel, you know, we have many parts of self that we balance, and one of them is like an undeniable engine, and the other one is like, what am I doing wrong? And I have to live with those two, and that's tough. And this year was no more like it could not have been a better example of like the creative side of me is just like, screw work. Let's just write another short story. And then the practical side of me is like, we got to pay the bills. We got to pay the bills. So, this is what I do all day long. I kind of juggle the like, do I chase clients down or do I write that short story that I was thinking about? So, yeah, more of that in this discussion, but that was the year in review. Like very creative, very fruitful, but also very sort of very stuttery business wise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna go a little off script. Can you give me a theme? Like what was the theme for your year? Like what do you think
My
the
theme was all about aligned action,
oh,
which
there we go
actually
again.
segues nicely into like lessons learned.
Lessons
So
learned.
I don't know if you want to like say what yours is, or if you want to just do my trajectory and then we can go to your trajectory. I don't know.
I think the theme for me this year was like you have to have like understanding there are different versions of success. Like I didn't make as much money this year, but I made a heck of a lot more connections and relationships and friendships in the business. So I have to like look at like it's a very successful year when it comes to partnering. I'll take
Hmm.
that. That's good. I want that. So you have to just you have to have perspective. You don't have to, but it's better if you do, I guess. Yeah, I'm not holding a gun to your head saying have perspective, but I'm saying it would help you, dear listener.
Um, so lessons learned. Um, I spent a lot of this year doing more introspection than I normally do, which is a lot anyway.
Right.
Um, so I kind of worried a little bit about being like emotionally unavailable to like friends and family around me because I was so, I don't want to say insular, but I was really focusing inward a lot. And a lot of that had to do with grief and just kind of recalibrating everything in my personal world. But I think that the lessons I learned as a result of that are understanding what works for me and understanding what I need to thrive. And so some of those things are like in practical language, like the class pass was a game changer for me. So for someone who struggles with, getting movement in my life and going to the gym wasn't working and yoga, which always worked for me for 25, 35 years, all of a sudden wasn't quite working for me anymore. And and I don't know why, it just suddenly stopped working. So ClassPass worked for me because this is who I am. I need that external um, accountability of making it to a class. And I also liked the variability. That's not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? Like the
Variety.
the
Yeah.
variety of things. Yesterday I did go to a strengthening yoga class. Today I'm going to go to a spin class. Tomorrow I'm going to go to a bar 3, class. So I have variety in the kinds of movements I'm doing. I have to go to the classes I sign up for, otherwise I get charged money for it. And I can't set up my schedule for movement except for 1 week in advance. Like the app doesn't let you. And I think that's where I get in trouble with in the past, I've gotten into the trouble with planning out, I'm going to take this yoga class every Wednesday at noon for the next 8 months. And I write it in my planner. And then if I can't, then I feel bad about myself, or I'll go anyway despite not feeling well because it's on my planner, and then I feel worse, or I really need, this kind of movement today, but I'm not going to do it because I've already signed up for this other class. So not setting up my schedule for movement so far in advance has been really eye-opening for me. And also reinforces that, like, what do I need today? What do I need this week? What's going on in my world that will be supported by this type of exercise versus this type of exercise? So really learning, who I am, what works for me, and what I need. And some of the things I, at 50 years old, have discovered that I need um, is more nurturing and self-care than I feel like I've allowed myself in the past. So I don't know if it's that I need it more now that I'm 50, or I just have always needed it and I'm finally allowing myself to be like, F it, I'm just going to give it to myself. And that is helping me thrive too. And some of that is, maybe more personal and not appropriate for the podcast, but like my spirituality has not been focused on for many years, and it's time for me to do that and be okay with it and not fear judgment or rejection, because that's the baggage that I grew up with. Being raised in a cult was really uncomfortable baggage to carry around. So yeah, I think lessons learned, this is who I am, this is what I need. And that extra introspection has really helped.
Hmm. I can't get quite that deep here, but I appreciate that you did.
Well, that's why we're a great team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I was gonna start with the kind of, I had like a wisecrack in mind, and now I'm gonna put that in my pocket because I'll sound like a real cad. But I'll say this, like,
It's a morning show, right? Like you
if I
could
had wanted, right,
just bring it out.
if I had wanted the safe route, I would have done something different with my life.
Mm.
If I would have wanted the safe and easy route, I would probably be, I left case management to be able to do this full time, and I I see my friends that are in case management that have ascended to these like really high end positions, and they're doing like, the work that I was interested in 15 years ago. Could have been me. Um, and still could be, probably. I could probably make the transition. But it's like if I had wanted something easier or more predictable, I could have had it, and I chose not to. And I chose this. And whatever it is, um, I guess the lesson is the same lesson every year, and that is like whatever this is, it's not going to be the same as it was last year. It's not going to be the same next year. We'll talk about this every year for the rest of our lives until we retire, and it's always going to be a different business. And so I don't want to say like I take the same lesson out of every year, but this year, like, I really had to stop and say, like, sometimes a website that goes gangbusters until August of 2023, something flattens, something goes wrong, the dynamic changes, you have to adjust. What worked is only a prelude to what might work later, and you have to always be aware of that. It's like it's never a game of and you can never in business. I'm just not talking creatively. Like, you can't entrench yourself. You have to be constantly in a state of like, that worked yesterday, does it work today? That worked yesterday, does it work today? um and
And
that's
not being upset about it when it's not, like that's
Well, you could
just
be upset about it. but don't get
For a
stuck in being
day, you
upset.
know,
Yeah,
like
you
don't
get to be
just like
upset.
swim in that.
Yeah.
There's
Stay
no
out of
time
that
for
end of the
that.
pool. But you get to be mad. Like I was really upset when I recognized like when my I had a big digital marketing, guru session that's, you know, he gave me I heard a lot of things come from him that I did not want to hear. I needed to hear, but I did not want to hear. I was pissed when he said, and I heard all those things, I want to say it was a shit show, it was a shit show. I was like, I can't believe I'm 10 years, 12 years into this and I'm having this conversation. But also, I had to stop myself and say, I am 10 years in, 12 years into this, and I'm having this conversation. It's just every business does this, you know, at some point. And for the number of business people that I've worked with over the years, every successful business person hits this divot or hits this refresh or re thing. It just happens. It's just the way it goes. Um, I've worked with people who do every bit of manufacturing and retail and, creative and like, and every one of them had this story. And I think part of the illusion I lived with was like, oh, I've heard all these stories and I'm aware of these stories, so therefore they're not going to happen to me because awareness is a key, but it's not the only key. You need action. So this year was that lesson, like I really had to sit back and say, okay, like let's just hit some refreshes, let's redo some things, let's just get, kind of stomach the idea that we're just going to have this period of the year is going to look like this when I wanted it to look like something else, and then let's just get on with it, folks. Let's just move on. And so, and the other lesson that I take into, that I didn't realize was that, and I said this to a friend last week, a friend who isn't in business. He works a regular job. And I said, like, this year was financially off, but I've made 4 or 5 partners that I didn't expect, that I didn't even know were there. And for that reason alone, like I can't call this a failure. I, can't call it a bad year because, you know, it would have those things are more worth more than dollar figures. So yeah, it's been a humbling year in a good way.
So, what are you excited for going into 2025 after this humbling year?
I am excited to kind of dovetail off of that. I am excited to have people to reach out to. I'm excited to have people that I can say, hey, um, I want to connect. Yeah, people that I can connect with, people that I can reach out to, people that I can like, I can, people I can ask, like, hey, are you guys like Wordcrafters or Luminaire, the people that I've started working with? Like, I can go now and just feel like I can say, hey, I'm interested in teaching this class. Is this something? Um, you'd be interested in like that confidence to be like I have the relationships, I would get the respectful no. um I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the job seeking and the work seeking to be more um interpersonal than like this anonymous Google search that it can
Hmm.
be sometimes.
So building relationships in your business world too.
I I looked at one point like 2 or 3 years ago, I tracked where everything, like the amount of money I made in all the different ways. This came through my website, this came through a partner, this came through this. And I was like, I want all that money to come through my website. And it's like, ideally it would, because I get the bigger share of it. But I also want, to make sure that more of what I do comes as a result of partnerships because that partnership is just another branch in the big tree of a business. Um, what works on Google and what works on your website is great, but it's like it's just a small part of it. And I guess I've spent most of the last 5 years like focusing all my energy there when I really should have been just going out there and reading people's newsletters and finding out about organizations and putting my neck out there and saying, this is who I am and this is what I offer. What about you?
Um, I'm really excited, kind of the sort of a spin-off of your stuff, the collaborations that are on the horizon, like getting a chance to try new skills out, the ghostwriting, the I'm working with this other company as an editor for these tarot decks and oracle cards decks. That's really cool. Also, I have been in, I've been inspired, but also like invited to, how do I say this? What I'm excited about is that things I didn't think I was good enough to do, people are starting to ask me to do. And so the
Very cool.
confidence going into 2025 is really interesting. A, that I have the confidence, but B, like the things that I'm going to be doing, like the ghostwriting, like keynotes. Like I've been invited to pitch keynote addressing for conferences. I've been invited to do these day-long workshops, which I've never done before. At my last retreat, there was a person. I don't know. I don't even remember how this conversation got started, but we were talking about courses. And I just passed off this flippant remark about not feeling like I had anything that I could teach yet. Like in a course, I teach like hour-long workshops at conferences or day-long workshops at like Wordcrafters and stuff, but I didn't think I could do like an online course that I would have anything like meaty enough for that. And I was promptly, slapped down for that. Like, no, you have all that. And she like, they listed off all of these different things that I could be doing online courses for. So I'm thinking about courses and, books from the trunk. You know what I mean? The stuff that I
Yeah.
have on my hard drive that I've just never published. I've never like, I have I have like three nonfiction books for writers that I have already started or are almost finished with that have just been sitting in Scrivener for 3 years, 5 years. So just having the confidence to like dust those off, put those back out, work on those collaborations, try to show up more online as well as in-person events, and doing more, as we talked about last week, the short videos, showing
Yep.
up on social media and Patreon and places where I can be a little bit more vulnerable and try to like, do that branding, I guess, is what it is, the branding of a name, of a personality, and that's exciting for me. So looking at all that. Plus, we're getting ready to move to Costa Rica, so that's a whole other job.
There you go. There you
So
go.
those are the things I'm looking forward to in the new year.
Love it. Love it. Well, the next time anyone will see us, it'll be 2025.
Yeah. And actually, it might even be from Costa Rica because I'm going to Costa Rica next month for
Oh
some
boy.
work and pleasure. So we'll probably record a podcast episode while I'm there, actually.
Yeah, how can it just all be work if it's Costa Rica? It
What are
seems
you
like a
ready to leave behind?
oh, what am I gonna leave behind? I don't know what I'm leaving behind. I think I'm leaving behind I'm leaving behind the disappointment.
Okay.
I really am leaving behind that specific disappointment of what didn't work. I really specifically that harp and sword relationship. I don't mind
Mm-hmm.
bringing up their name. Like, I mean, I banked a lot on that. Which you bank on things and they sometimes succeed and sometimes don't. Um, I banked a lot on that. I think I hung on to that disappointment for a really long time through the year. I spent a lot of time sleuthing it out. I spent a lot of time, you know, how did this happen? Why did this happen? How did this happen? Why did this happen? Even up until like 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation about it, and I realized it still has this little piece of my attention.
Mm-hmm.
It is still in the back of my mind. I'm leaving that. I'm so tired of thinking
Good.
about what went wrong there, because it didn't go wrong with me. That's the thing I'm being told, and I keep telling myself I
Mm-hmm.
did nothing to that made that go away. That was another, another business decision, another thing. You got to
Hmm.
leave that behind. What about you?
I am leaving behind two things, which are really one thing, actually. So I have discovered that that I am stuck in this loop of learning. And and I think it's that fear of not being certain, wanting to make sure everything is just perfect before I present or before I make a decision or before I something, I always want to have that certainty that everything is, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. And I'm not talking about copy. I'm talking about like that I am the expert in this thing before I go and say that I'm the expert in this thing. And I feel like I have been in like learning mode, and I'm not actually taking the action steps of starting to do the thing just out of fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm going to let go of mostly is like the not the need for certainty, but recognizing that do know I know I know what I know, and I know more than I know, and I don't need to buy another class or listen to another podcast episode from the same person that I'm, like it's great to have mentors, and those resources are invaluable, and I think that everyone should have a coach or, somebody that they like follow so that you can kind of get direction or just, feedback soundboard kind of thing. But at some point, you have to be like, all right, I know what I'm talking about now. I'm going to make the decision and I'm going to do this thing. And it might be scary and I might not feel like I'm ready for it, but I'm going to do it anyway because I
Yeah.
have to start it.
Yep. I
And so
think there's
I think that's what I'm leaving behind, ready to get rid of that stuck in the loop of learning and not trusting myself and my intuition about something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think there's this part of me too that does that. There's this part of me that's like when it comes to like things like Amazon ads or like there's like a million things. It's like is now that you have to know when it's like I know enough to start. That's like you can always know more. That's the thing. You can always know more about any one of these things because they're so
Hmm.
complex. I mean, that's why there's people out there that are gurus that are making money doing a thing. But you
Hmm.
don't need to be that guru to start. You can just start. And then, you know, then you'll figure it out. Then you hone it. But I think I do that. I get in that loop too, where it's like I can't start this because I'm not an expert. Like that's not
That doesn't
that's not
work.
the
That
yeah.
doesn't move you forward and get you closer to your dreams and aspirations.
Yeah.
Only
Yep.
action steps. And also that builds confidence too. If you take an
Yep.
action step, then you're doing it, then you feel more confident because you're doing it. Also, you trust yourself more because you've said, I'm going to do this thing, whether it's writing a chapter today or putting your words in today or pushing publish, on Ingram Spark or going to a yoga class, whatever. If you've said you're going to do it, you've told yourself you're going to do it, and if you do it, then you build trust with yourself. And that goes a
Yep.
long way when things are getting harder. I don't like to use that word hard, but if things are getting more challenging, then you can say, you know what, we got this because we did it last time. So come on, let's do it. And you do it again. And then you do it again. And then pretty soon you're just a string of action steps and you're that much closer to your goal. And the confidence is growing. So I also wanted, this is kind of an announcement, I suppose, in kind of closing up this end of the year review. If anybody else wants to do an end of year review where you look through your life and your planner and your calendar and see what you've accomplished in all the months of the year and what your lessons learned are and what things you're excited about going into the new year or changing for yourself or leaving behind. If you want to do this too, I'm actually going to be for my patrons, but if you want to become a patron at any level, then you can join me on December 28th, which is a Saturday after Christmas, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And the we're going to get together for 2 hours, and the first hour will be the end of year review for 2024. And then we're going to do a tarot spread or an oracle spread for 2025. So drawing a card for every month of the year and then one for like the whole year overall. And I do that every year. I've done it every year for like 3 or 4 years now. And I really like it. I just draw a card and I write all that information in the back of my planner. And then every month when I do like a monthly spread, like getting ready for March. Okay, I'm going to decorate my March monthly spread in my planner. And I look back at what card I had drawn for March. And it kind of provides like a theme, or it's just for fun, really. It's kind of um, a way to, yeah, it's like a theme. Like, all right, this month I'm gonna look around for ways to support creativity, if that's what the card was that I drew, or something like that. And then and I write all of this stuff down on the actual page in my planner for March. Like words that represent this card that I drew, and yeah, it's just another way to reflect. So if anybody wants to join me, you can go to patreon.com/Valerie Isan. And if you are a paid member of my community, then you can join me for the end of year review and yearly tarot spread for 2025 on Saturday, December 28th, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time.
That's great. I love it. I love it. I hope you get people taking you up on that.
I do it for myself, so I just thought I'll put it out there if anybody wants to be kind of guided through it. It'll be mostly a meditative sort of Zoom call. It's not going to be a lot of verbose. It's just going to be a lot of like reflection and
Right.
kind of journal writing, really. And you just bring your own tarot spread or deck. I like oracle cards better than tarot, but bring whatever deck you've got, and then we'll just be, so we won't be talking or chatting a lot, and it won't be like instructional, but some people really like the space. It's that accountability, Eric, like, all right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this thing that is important to me and I want to do it. And I've signed up for the thing. So I'm going to show up for myself and do this thing. And yeah.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Well, that was my end of the year review with you. How about any other words of wisdom or wrap up
Hold
stuff?
on tight.
Hold on tight.
2025 is coming.
Here we go. Woo woo. All right. Well, the
Yeah.
next time you hear from us, it will in the new year. We'll see you in the new year then. And if you want to use that code that I have for Magic Mind and try it out, you can use Valerie20 at checkout, and you can claim it at magicmind.com/Valerie20.
Absolutely.
All right. Happy holidays and happy end of the year.
Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.